Alright, we're live. What's going on? As usual, you're joining me while I'm cooking. See if anyone's going to show up, and then we'll get started here soon. Ooh, she's a hot one. There we get these fucking bacon going here. Alright, so the topic today is rhetoric. I usually do these on Instagram, but I want to save them. And I know how to save them from Instagram, but whatever. Food we're cooking. Down. Alright, so rhetoric. Pretty simple. Art of persuasion. Usual definition. Webster definition. And we all use rhetoric. Even Jesus uses rhetoric. Uses divine rhetoric, whatever. But basically, what you're doing is you're pushing people into rivets or channels. So you can imagine, someone following you and you're blazing a trail, and you just keep blazing the trail and keep convincing them to follow you. And the world is based on this kind of principle where people are just trying to guide people along, and then rhetoric's not a problem, it's not in inherency anything evil. It has this kind of idea of a tool. It is a tool for people to use to guide people along, hopefully towards salvation if they're decent, God-fearing people. So yeah, this is going well so far. Let me get some coffee. I wish I had some people to chat with, but I can't chat with anyone on Instagram right now, I don't think. I'm just a little burned out from it. And, gonna get some cream. Alright, let's say you meet a woman. A man meets a woman and courts her and wants her to follow him, as it should be. In any capacity, modern courtship is basically divine cuckitude, or just bullshit, where they try to play a doubles game where they're going to give the woman they're going to give the woman some authority and stuff like that. But the natural instinct is not to, and that's what a woman actually prefers. They don't want to be, misled or lied to. So, what it really comes down to is what's in your heart. So if your heart's full of, lustful, anything in the sinful actions, that's going to get exposed. Whether you're a good, good deceiver or not, it eventually gets exposed, unless that person is already kind of broken to it. So I'd use rhetoric and stuff like that. And I had to kind of come up with these answers to these questions because I needed to know for sure what was in my heart when I push people around, right? And when they push me around, I got to figure out the same thing. I got to figure out what's in their heart. What happened, in recent times is that People aren't showing their heart anymore. People can't see the people's hearts anymore because they're all focused on words and mechanisms. And what I mean by that is basically a mechanism is kind of like an axiomatic, or like it's false axiomatic, but it's at the foundation of like, this is what we do as people kind of thing. It's like someone will say something like, I'm doing my best, and people will stop badgering them for their problem. The heart of it is that this isn't working. Usually it's some sort of like heartfelt, call to like, this isn't working for me. This is all I can do, and it makes sense. But a good leader is just rhetoric. It's just rhetorical. It just pushes, and you have to follow the leader's rhetoric. His pushes, his demands to get somewheres with them, and then you have sub-rhetoric, which is, you have a mission and you have a submission, and that's that person, or group of people could have a submission that needs basically to be answered, and an answer, formally is an apology. And an apology is formally an answer, kind of thing. Like, it might be that way strictly, but so you kind of have to answer to all these, concerns. And this is basically, if you go and read the story of Moses, where he's leading people out of Egypt and they were starving. He has to basically answer for his to his people. And even he can ask God, what to do, and ask for an answer too. And that's where they get the manna and the guidance in the orders to keep the food fresh and not keep it full of worms. And also, he guides Moses into getting water from a stone from the ground. So. And miraculously, back then, very different, right? So, this is really all about what's in their hearts, who their leaders are, and that's a really good question to ask yourself. It's like, are you, following the almighty dollar? Which in itself is a joke. Almighty, right? The almighty. People are replacing, God with dollars. And this happens. And people fall for it. And people follow it. And they only have one child, or spend all their time making money. Mr. Burns is a classic example of the satirical age, the comedy of the 90s. Childless billionaire. So I think, people who are concerned about different types of leadership always seek out the heart of the person, pushing you around. And once you know that, then you guys can work together. And then, the submission can still influence the primary mission, because you are still, you're not trying to be the mission above it. And I have this problem, is I'll try to be a mission above someone else. And you gotta know your role. You gotta know where your heart is. If your heart isn't in their mission, you know, then you are going to create a new mission. And I've done this in the past where I've created new missions because I, um, I wanted to be, I wanted to do something differently. Basically, I wanted to be on the top, and that's probably true at some point. I was like in my heart. And I don't see a problem with it, as long as I don't build a Tower of Babel, right? I don't try to build a stairway to heaven. I don't try to solve everything, but I do it to, honor my Lord, my God. So, people are getting pushed around on the internet, by different people. Owen Benjamin's a good example. Vox Day is another example. Any type of political speaker, another example. But their missions sometimes are to make money. Stephen Crowder. Is his mission to bring about the next great American generation? Maybe a quarter, maybe 25%, maybe 15% in his heart. Probably to protect his way of life, most likely. There's a good chunk of it. His desires, his wants and needs. Doesn't have a family. He's got a quarter in the bag, He's not talking about, bringing people to Jesus Christ and letting Jesus Christ save them. He's kind of murking around in the waters. So I think that's what Owen and Vox have a problem with, personally, and with their mission in life. Owen becoming a father would put you in a position to rethink a lot of this and to restructure your life, to be in line with the good thing of raising children. Imagine if Owen didn't, and still, set up his shows or his did movie contracts and stuff like that, and still lived in Hollywood or whatever, and probably never see his kids. Probably not raise them. Probably put them in public school, which is yet to come for him. But all right, so I'll talk about one more thing, possibly more. But so when I interact with people, I tend to figure out their missions very quickly. I usually figure out who's in charge very quickly, because I don't like not knowing who is running the show here. If they run the show badly, I can still submit, but I'm usually submitting to something different, like money, or the work, or something like that. So like poor leadership doesn't matter, but the moment the leadership gets in the way of that, I start to basically move away and start my own missions again. So an example of that is like you start a job. I don't think this has really happened to me, but you start a job. I guess it did. Kind of happens to everyone. You start a job and you do it for the money because you need to support yourself and stuff like that. And basically the job has no skill, has nothing to develop. Maybe they even restrict like social aspects, and they restrict, you know, perks and stuff like that. Like, it's really just a shit job where you don't make enough money to really even support yourself. You just kind of get by with it. And, you know, it's a good idea to get a better job. Because this doesn't fit your mission, right? You want to be socializing with people, you want to be talking, you want to be moving up, you want to be building things, you want to be setting up your life, you know? And I have different missions that have come up over and over again, and they're still there. Even if I'm doing something else, I have to do something else, they're still there and they're still ready to go. They've all been formalized, you know, they're like, okay, here's what you need to do here. Because what I'd like to do in the future is do a couple shows. I got like two main things I'd like to do. I'd like to write music for not a musical, but just like a play. Musicals are kind of gay. It'd be nice to do a musical because I'd like to take it back, because I think musicals are pretty faggotry, and I'd like to make a non-gay musical for once in our generation. So that'd be interesting, but I have my heart more set on just plays. I like Julius Caesar and stuff like that, like historical stuff. And I'd probably do Joseph of Nazareth kind of play, I think, or gospel. I don't know if I do Gospel of John, but that'd be probably later on. I do something very simple. I'd either do that or like I do like the story of Jacob, stuff like that. The other one is just to do some kind of like Randy Newman style music and an album. I already pretty much got what I need for an album, for an EP I could release. Just I have to decide on what kind of quality I'm ready to release it at. And it might be a lower quality, and that's fine. I'm not too concerned. Later on I could come back and redo them, you know. My mission is really just to, with those things, work what I was given, work what I was like, the gifts I was given, which is, I don't know, you have to get to know me to know those, but I can work really quickly and fast. It's just high IQ, I guess, but it's also like highly creative and like outside the bounds. So, and to get to know people who are also on this kind of like higher IQ, and to get to know a lot of them, or just, you know, people who've got the right things in their heart, because I feel like I've only known a few, and it doesn't really give me a lot of it doesn't give me a lot of friends, but it gives me a lot of acquaintances, because I can't befriend someone who in their heart has something else until they at least repent for it and come to me, acknowledge it, or unless or we work together and we figure it out and we come to a common understanding. Usually that's two roads, but you know, if we're not working on similar missions or whatever, I just can't do it, mainly because I can't spare the time. I can't spare the time to go out drinking or anything like that. I may do that when I'm upset, but like that's the only time. So some people around here drink every weekend, right? So that's what I'm getting at. Crispy. Oh. So, missions, submissions, rhetoric, and that's about it. Finish cooking this bacon. If I think of anything else, I might just, can I just pause this? That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Just go pause. Fuck. All right, I'll start a new one if it doesn't work. See you later. Have a glorious day. God bless.